Hello there, everybody. Welcome back to the SirLinksalot podcast, Rabbit Hole Edition. I'm your host, Artemis Peacock, and I'm with our CEO, Nicholas Altimore. And today we have a fun one for you. How are you today, Nick?
I'm doing pretty good.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Tell
She
me.
cut me off before I could go further. We've been talking for like an hour before we came here, so she's probably tired of me verbal vomiting how I actually feel. But that's fine. You know, we can go past it.
No,
Good
I already know
holidays.
that she's
It was
good.
nice holidays. Good New Year. A lot of friends asking me, "Hey, what are your goals for the year?" And I say, I don't do that shit. I think that is dumb and pathetic. And if you've got to wait for the new year to get your crap in order, then you're doing it all wrong from the get-go.
This is
That's
why
what
I
I'm
cut you
doing.
off, by the way. It's not because I don't want to, because I know exactly how you are, but I'm just kind of like, oh God, here he goes.
Well,
If you have a New Year's resolution,
let them know. Let them know. Okay.
you're a scrub. No, actually, I'm making fun of you, but I low key feel the same way. I see why it works for some people, but
Sure.
for me, every time I make one, I'm just kind of like, oh, that was lame. So I just have like one overarching goal for like the year, and that's to keep doing what I'm doing because I'm doing everything pretty well.
What's the Japanese term for that? I've been trying to figure out mine.
Usogi?
Yes, misogi, right?
Yeah.
One life-defining move for the year. I'm having a hard time coming up with mine. I'm not gonna lie, because I feel like I've got my fingers in a lot of different things, and so then it's hard to bring them just into like one thing. And a lot of times, it's the culmination of all these aspects coming together to create that kind of whirlwind that changes everything.
What was it last year? Did you have like one goal, or is this like a
No,
new concept for you?
no. Last year, I'm not gonna lie. Since I went through a lot of big things at the end of 24, I bought out my company. I started a new company in 25. I can't say that I've been lazy, but like yeah, I didn't have anything like that. Like I just kind of I got ownership of everything and then started building new stuff. I can't make it any more complicated than that, right? Like
Right, that makes sense. So when you started that trajectory and you were just kind of like, this is like a fresh new start, so to speak. I get to like have the reins of everything that I want to do. Here's what we're going to be doing. Did you kind of have like one big goal in mind besides just scaling? Or was it just like, let's just get this off the ground and see what happens?
keep scaling and then get that product to where it was functional enough to where we, could start marketing and selling it, which actually it only just got there about a month and a half ago. So if y'all are not familiar with kpi.me, get over there. It's still free. We're not charging for it yet, and we'll probably just allow anybody that tried it out previously to be lifetimed in free of charge. So kpi.me, data analytics dashboards, white labeling options on your own subdomain. Get in there and check it out. If you can break stuff, then let us know what you break, etc. Yeah.
Yeah, especially if you're an agency, that's a really helpful capability to have. So,
For
and
sure.
there's actually quite a lot of people using it right now. So, hopefully, you guys can get in while it's still free because I can probably see that changing pretty soon.
It'll be soon.
Um,
Yeah.
so I feel like in general, your goal seems to be very similar to mine. It's just to keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah. If you live your
Yeah.
life as art, which like I've been having this conversation a lot lately, then like you're going to be jumping around, you're going to be trying different things, you're going to be like just enjoying basically everything that you're doing. So I just try and keep that in mind. That can be a goal set, a broad term goal set. Just live creatively, enjoy what you're doing, spread some value and love around, and see where it goes. You don't have to overcomplicate things. I feel like all my friends that are like, I came up with my vision board and like I'm gonna do this, this, and this, and this, and this. You're setting yourself up to be bored all year. That's why like you don't complete half the shit you talk about at the beginning of the year, or you give up on the gym 2-3 weeks later. It's because you're not really interested in the concept. It's like an imagination of what you want to be, the archetype you want to be versus what you actually are, when you should be, giving yourself and lending yourself to things that I think are in your nature, maybe a little bit more, but maybe
Right. I
easier said
totally
than
get what
done.
you mean. I volunteer for a local marketing group where right now we have over 100 girls who are part of our club, and
Hmm.
we were thinking about having a New Year's vision board meetup. Our New Year's meetup was a little bit more scanty than we expected. We had like 14 people register, but we only got half the people there because the weather was so bad. It was dangerous
Uh-huh.
for a lot of people to travel. So I was glad we didn't do that one because it would have been like a little lamer with less people. But we were talking about like our New Year's resolutions, and one girl was like, yeah, I had a vision board that I made last year, and I looked back and I was so excited because I feel like I just did everything, and actually I didn't do anything at all. I was
Yeah.
like, damn, I feel like that would be me. The vision boards
What
are nice,
mhm.
but I
What
don't
she
know.
actually did was create a collage that day and have, like, a really good time doing it, you know? Maybe lend yourself to that a little bit more or
She had a
something.
nice little Pinterest board. I mean, I
Ah,
didn't see
yes.
it, but she already has her life together, so it's not like it was clearly anything super urgent. She's fantastic, but, it made me think like, "Oh, I don't want people to be disappointed if we all get together and make these cute little vision boards next year, and we have another meetup and say, 'Okay, everybody, what's going on the vision boards?'" And it's just like a meetup of, like, all 8 of us being like, yeah, so, about that
I think
vision
that's more
board."
common than not, to be honest, you know?
Really?
I think so, yeah.
I don't know, I'm always locked in. That's the thing. Like,
Wait, so what is your what are you doing this year? What's your misogi?
connection.
Okay.
I want to connect with more people. So what I started doing, I'm very intentional about it. Every Tuesday, I scheduled this month for me to connect with somebody who I met last year, who I think has good vibes. And I'm
Okay.
doing my Tuesday lunches. And
Fun.
I did it once for the first Tuesday in January. Everything was great. Then we have to cancel this Tuesday because it's snowing so badly in the Netherlands that there's no trains running and there's no trams or anything. And honestly, I can barely walk out of my front door without slipping, falling, and getting a concussion off the
Yeah,
snow
I've
and
been
ice.
seeing all your stories. It looks like a winter wonderland out there.
It's a hell. It's winter hell. I'm not feeling it. So because of that, it's like I feel like my misogi's already been bastardized a bit uh, off of things I can't even control. So
Oh,
uh, maybe I'll just keep volunteering for the marketing ladies group, and then hopefully we'll attract good vibes and good people who make me feel like I've fulfilled the goal anyway.
that's a good idea.
Yeah. So today's pod is going to be something that's really interesting. And when it was first suggested, that we go down this little rabbit hole, I didn't know what to think. I thought, okay, sounds fun because it's kind of like a very general thing.
Mhm.
Um, we're talking about the father or fathers, which you'll see a little bit more later on, of modern public relations. So, as far as everything marketing related goes, PR is probably the most visible part of marketing. Everybody has some kind of exposure to it, whether it be PR coming from political government organizations, PR coming from brands, from the owners of brands, from companies who have gotten knee deep up shit creek and have no idea how they're going to get out.
Mhm.
Because of that, we want to see where modern PR actually came from, how you're actually being exposed to it, and how that plays into literally everything that goes on a global scale, pretty much.
Sure.
So, Nick, tell me, when was the first time that you heard about Edward Bernays?
Sure. So, a friend of mine had come over, and at the time, I was reading, I think it was like 7 or 8 books that, somebody had written an article about. If you read these, it's the equivalent of getting your master's degree in, business marketing, advertising, mishmash of all that. So I bought the books and I started going through them. And this was the one that was currently sitting, David Ogilvy, Confessions of an Advertising Man. For those of you that know, the show Mad Men was based on this entire thing, right? I love that show. Looks like I only got about halfway through it. I see. This is
That's good, three-fourths.
I do that a lot. There's a lot of books in my library that are half read, whatever. But anyhow, he sees that, and we start talking about Bernays, which is the first I'd heard about it. And he was really interested in what it did. He's to put it lightly, a bit of a conspiracy theorist. And so I think this got him down some rabbit holes he really loved. And I can see why the more you study Bernays, his connectivity to Freud, et cetera, right? But that was the first I heard of him. And he told me about that campaign, Torches of Freedom, and how it got women smoking, right? And he had this really like eloquent, like he did theatrics as he was explaining it to me, right?
Right.
But then, yeah, I went down the rabbit hole because, of course, this is like what I was studying and learning about at the time. And yeah, a lot of interesting content to digest in there about
Right.
the rise of, he put out the book Propaganda, right? And he's not shy about saying, what was the quote that I loved so much from that? Right, where he says, "It is the duty of intelligent minority of society, him and his friends, to manipulate the unthinking group mind in the name of freedom and democracy." And that was, his idea
What?
for his book Propaganda, which came actually late in his career, just before he started working for the United Fruit Company, which controlled banana republics in Central America. And then that's a rabbit hole I'm sure we'll start talking about in time. But yeah, very
Wow.
interesting
This guy
character.
seems like a real head. He was saying that, hold on, his philosophy is that because him and his friends are so much smarter than everybody else, it's their job to manipulate literally everybody else because it's their divine right. And I mean, if we don't
Basically.
do it, who else is going to?
Yeah, yeah. And, it's interesting because, like, when I first went to college, I was studying psychology with, an emphasis on neuropsychology. And I really enjoyed that. I ended up in marketing because I was a lazy student, didn't want to be a doctor, but I still love psychology. Yeah. Um, in going through some of the stuff that and going through some of the intros to psychology, of course, you learn about Freud, right? But you don't learn a lot about, you know, he was a fucking cokehead, for God's sake. He had a lot of
Really?
weird ideas. Yeah, he was a rampaging cokehead. He has one of the funniest quotes that he wrote it in a letter to his wife at the time. Freud, letter about cocaine to wife. Let's see if I can pull it up because I would love to say this.
Was it
So
like Hunter Biden talking about how much he loves? Was it like that kind of love letter?
yes, only honestly way better because he. Oh man. Woe to you, my princess. Now, mind you, this was to Martha Bernays. So Sigmund Freud wrote several letters to his fiancée, later his wife, Martha Bernays, in which he enthusiastically discussed and praised experiments with cocaine, even sending her some to try. He loved cocaine, right?
Back when you could
And
send that shit through USPS.
yeah, and it was like, I'm sure pure, and I think he partook a lot. So he writes this letter, and it's well worth a read. So, woe to you, my princess, when I come. I will kiss you quite red and feed you till you are plump. And if you are forward, you shall see who is the stronger, a gentle little girl who doesn't eat enough, or a big wild man who has cocaine in his body, wrote Sigmund Freud to his future wife, Martha Bernays, on June 2nd, 1884. Right? So, like, he had this personality type, right? And he had these ideas, and this is him in private life, right? At the same time,
Yeah.
you can go read Carl Jung. I love Carl Jung. I absolutely adore all his studies, especially like the esoteric stuff, like the black books. But never mind, they would talk to one another. But anyhow, I think this led to a lot of like perverted theories that he had, and like I won't get into too much detail about it, but if y'all want to go look into why I personally don't have an interest in Freudian psychoanalysis, it's because of things like you can go look up the Freudian cover-up, and I'll just read from Wikipedia a little bit about what that is. Freudian cover-up is a theory introduced by social worker Florence Rush in 1971, which asserts that Sigmund Freud intentionally ignored evidence that his patients were victims of sexual abuse. The theory argues that in developing his theory of infant sexuality, which you can go read about that, it's its own weird shit in
It's
and of
messed up.
itself. But he misinterpreted his patient's claims of sexual abuse as symptoms of repressed incestuous desires, which, if you know anything about Freudian, ideology, psychology, then it has a lot to do with incestuous desires being the reason that we become the adults we do.
And
Yeah.
I'll go into that because I know that
Go
you
ahead.
won't. I don't even care.
All right, good.
Because it's so ridiculous to me. He has this theory that like every young man wants to like bang his mom or something
Hmm.
secretly. So
Yeah.
once I had a therapist, maybe like 10 years ago or something now, and I saw her from maybe like 3 appointments, and I saw a book on her shelf. It was like a Freud, like some kind of Freud book. Now, I wasn't well versed in it, but I know enough about his problematic ideas towards sexual everything.
Yeah.
I asked her about it and I was like, "Hey, do you really align with his philosophies?" She went on the like just like the biggest rant about how misunderstood he is and how he has so many fantastic ideas, whatever, whatever. I
Hmm.
never saw that therapist again. And let
I
me tell
wouldn't
you,
either.
because it wasn't just that, but that was like the final straw. Like something was absolutely wrong with her. She was talking about how he had validity in his theories and he was just misunderstood. So I was thinking maybe there's something that I'm missing because this lady, oh, she's a therapist. Plus she's like 70 years old. Maybe she knows something that I don't. Maybe she's trying to impart some wisdom onto me. So I started looking more into him and his philosophies. And the more that I was reading, the more I was like, wow, this guy should have never been around civilized
Dude.
society, right? Something is wrong with him.
Agreed. Yes.
And speaking of the weird, just weirdness in general. So Edward Bernays, the man who we're talking about, his nephew, he's
Hmm.
not just his regular nephew. He's not, oh no, that would be too simple. He's what we call a double nephew. So his mother was Freud's sister, and his father was Freud's wife's brother. So their family does not even have that many, like their family tree is starting to look like a Christmas wreath here. You know what I'm saying?
Wow. Yeah, I
Yeah,
was not aware of that at all. That's interesting lore right there.
guy's weird. Okay.
Yes.
So it makes sense that his ideas are also kind of like incestuously permeating throughout everything that they do. And
Hmm.
that feeds also into what a lot of Edward Bernays, what I would argue to be the mildly, like if I were to put it mildly unethical, I'd use the
Yes.
word
I don't know if I'd use mild
mi-
after looking into everything, but yeah,
it's
sure.
barbaric. They're quite
Yes.
barbaric. Okay.
Yes.
Tell us more, Nick, about how he kind of uses similar philosophies in his work. Like a lot of the work that he does is just based off of just, the overall concept of what Freud tries to promote. Not just, what we were talking about
Yeah.
earlier, which I even feel icky mentioning it. But a lot of what is based is clearly very heavily influenced by his twice uncle.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you look into it, it was hard to really know how often he would speak to his uncle, right? But he
Right.
wasn't shy about using his uncle's credentials as a way to say, I'm connected to this grander ideology, right? And I
He
think
led
that
him.
helped him in putting himself above other people, right? He definitely practiced this version of psychology, and he's not shy about saying he used it to manipulate. That was what he wanted to do. It wasn't about, you think about psychology, and you would imagine that it's about understanding the human psyche and the depths that it's capable of, etc. Well, there's plenty of people that got on to this, these concepts and then started using them for their own, to push their own will onto other people, right? And he's not shy about saying any of that. So he used principles within psychology, simply to manipulate the masses. And we're talking about a guy. Bernays lived 103 years. He died in 1996, I believe. Right. So like his scope of influence from the early 1900s to the time he died was pretty impressive. And I feel like he got darker and darker as he went. So like for Cliff Notes version, World War One starts. Americans aren't excited about going to war. They think it's a European thing, right? As a matter of fact, Wilson started running, he ran on a campaign. This is the president that kept us out of war, right?
Mm.
But then, of course, there's a change of heart once the Lusitanias sunk, and the administration creates the first modern propaganda office known as the Committee of Public Information. And that's where he got his start working on PR campaigns, was for the government, right? Trying to steer people in a direction that would make it more favorable that we're going to war. And it's interesting because we're talking about, World War I. It's going on right now. I mean, like, our society is filled with all this kind of misinformation, broken promises, you name it. Like, or like, maybe not broken promises, but a lot of hot air gets said, and then actions, etc., follow their own path, let's say, right?
For sure.
So yeah, he works for the Committee of Public Information, which is interesting. One of their original posters, I didn't know it was him, but it says "Destroy this mad brute," and it's got a King Kong wearing a Nazi helmet. Like, I actually have it. I found it in Argentina last time I was there,
Really?
of course, of all places. Yeah. But I didn't know it was, not exactly his work, but he was working at the office at the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Bernays works for this. He gets an understanding of like how you can kind of play this game. Then he goes on to himself, working for his own agency, where his start is a campaign for hairnets. At the time, women had started cutting their hair into bobs because of, I think, an athlete, something along the lines. And so hairnets were starting to have like huge issues from a sales perspective. So what he does is he starts hiring health experts and getting studies done on the health benefits of using hairnets, etc. Here's where we first start to see, the manipulation of science to get the job done and sell more hairnets. Well, it goes further than that, because that hairnet campaign then reaches legislators that start making laws to use hairnets in specific situations, right? Like if you're going to work, etc. And it's all based
Right.
off this campaign. Again, this translates into the shit that we see now. There's plenty of stuff that you can look at where you're like, that doesn't really make a lot of sense. This study seems bogus. Talking about like healthy smoking, any number of things, whatever. But this playbook's being used still today, but that was the origination of it, right?
So this is why like cafeteria ladies in school have to wear a hairnet, is because this guy
Right?
influenced public policy to
That's the
sell more
origin story.
hairnets. You
Yeah.
know what? Actually, I feel like now that I think about it, I can't think of many applicable use cases for hairnets because hair. First of all, hair gets in your food anyway. Second
Yeah.
of all, it's not really going to. It doesn't really make much of a difference. It's not that serious if hair gets in food in the first place, is it?
No, not
So
unless you make up a study that says, it spreads germs and you got to be really careful and they can kill you, right? I'm
yeah,
exaggerating here, right? But yeah, it's
but I
the
mean, yeah,
concept of using fear mongering to get people to bend to your will, right? And he was a
sure.
master of that, right? Um, but then after that, this is where like most people would know him from, is the cigarette campaigns, right? He starts working for George Washington Hill, biggest man in cigarettes, National Board of Cigarettes for America. What, I can't remember the name of it, but right, like highest man in the totem pole of cigarettes at the time. And Mr. Hill has an idea where he wants women smoking because that's going to help their profit margins substantially. And at the time, it wasn't seen as ladylike. So, they start off, and Bernays comes up with a campaign basically saying they help you slim down, right? Like the health benefits are like, it was starting to come into fashion that women were slimmed down versus like a bit more portly, whatever. So they stick to that narrative. They say, instead of eating so much, you can smoke a cigarette and it'll like suppress your appetite, etc. So like the campaign started off as a way to keep weight off. Like that's the new, idea for what's beautiful, and that's the direction they're going in. So that was worthwhile, but this only got women smoking like at home or in private. It still wasn't seen as ladylike to go out there. And so here's where comes into play the most magical campaign, if you want to call it that, that Bernays had, which is what my friend was talking about. And I'll try and kind of emulate what he was saying, or in the fashion that he was saying it. But what he does is he contacts a man, a psychoanalyst named A.A. Brill, who is in the States. And there's an interview with him where like his family is or Bernays, where his family is asking, why didn't you contact your uncle, right? Freud. He's like, well, because he wasn't stateside. But A.A. Brill was the first psychoanalyst of America, and he learned from Freud. So there's definitely some connectivity right there.
Right, for sure.
So this is where it gets kind of interesting, and the Freudian stuff comes in. Let's see here. Brill said that cigarettes were symbols of masculine empowerment, little penises, and that penis envy could drive women to smoke. So armed with this insight, Bernays staged an intervention during the 1929 New York Easter Parade. Right? So like we're already like, and then there's more to that story where you realize the entire, there was even like a quote where they're like, if you got them to do this, then they would essentially have their own penises and be fighting the power. Like this was a hijacking of the suffragette movement, which I'll explain here shortly.
Right.
Yeah, in order to get women to smoke.
That is insane.
Wild.
So when you describe more of his like philosophy and how he associates the most innocuous shit with like some kind of like sexual thing, some kind of like phallic thing.
The cigarette was a phallic symbol of power.
Yeah,
and masculinity.
It makes more sense if this guy was completely blowed like, all the time. Like he was like he literally just like did a line, and then he like sat back and he's like, you know what, this is
that was Freud, right? Like, and then like you had all these people adopting these concepts, right? And maybe they weren't doing blow, but they sure something's wrong with their brain. We're like, they're like, oh yeah, this makes a lot of fucking sense.
It's back when they still had Coke in the Coke. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. That actually, I think
they just like took a swing and they were like, yeah, man, you know what?
It's fucking rad.
Yeah, man, I do kind of want to be my mom, man. You know?
Yeah. Oh gosh, man. Ooh,
these people were dark so there.
Yeah, incredibly weird people, right? But so
yeah,
armed with this ideology, then Bernays goes, I got the fucking plan, right? The Easter parade comes up, and he knows that what he can do to get women smoking in public is find a few debutantes that he asked to hide cigarettes under their dress and their garter belt or whatever, right?
Right.
And at his sign, they were to lift their dress up, grab a cigarette, and then light it up there in public during the parade on his cue. Now, what he did was he told the press, there are some suffragettes out there that are looking to make a political scene, right? So keep your eyes on whatever. And he knew when this was going to happen. It happens. You see these debutantes light up. All the press is right there, focused in. Boom. And this becomes the Torches of Freedom campaign, which is a term that Bernays himself coined, right? Like you think about the Statue of Liberty. This is like a sign of defiance, like, we've got freedom. And, you think about smoking as a symbol of freedom. I don't know, but it worked. They latched onto it. And what was most interesting was this isn't like the first, as far as I can see, the first time they ran an ad campaign under the guise of it being completely organic. So news stations ignored that it might have been staged, even though some people had, their suspicions. And then this blew up into not only a symbol of freedom for women smoking, but the health benefits. That's where like all that started, for women to smoke, etc. Right. And then you see it, boom, blast through Hollywood, where every actress is smoking cigarettes in some kind of, salacious way, etc. And yeah, it got cigarette sales to skyrocket, and before you knew it, it was one of the most successful campaigns in the history of modern PR. Right? It's really
Wow.
advertising, but it's guerrilla advertising, right? And then
For
after
sure.
that, he wrote propaganda. Yeah.
So he had that one campaign, and then he was like, "Oh yeah, I really cooked with that." And then he wrote an entire book about manipulating the public, and he was like, "Yeah, guys, we're gonna keep doing this. Like,
Yeah.
we really ate with this."
Yeah, he loved it. Yeah. I mean, well, that's when he writes propaganda. He's obviously full of himself. He's like, fuck yeah,
Yeah.
these little half wits are easy. Like, so let's just double down, right? And
Yeah.
so
There's
then,
another one that he did. Sorry, but
well,
this one really
yeah.
just, like, threw me for a loop. Apparently, he's also behind, convincing Americans that bacon and eggs for breakfast is, like, the way to go. So, you know how
Mhm.
you think of, like, the standard American bacon, pancakes, eggs, even here in Europe, if there's an American breakfast, you can be 100% sure that it contains all those items plus
Mhm.
toast. That was also a marketing campaign. He got doctors to actually, like, endorse it and
What do you
convince
know?
people, like, "Yeah, this is the healthiest thing is to have, like, this heavy breakfast." I always thought something was wrong with me because I don't eat until, like, 2 PM.
Same.
I'm not Yeah, I think
Yeah.
I was like, "Okay, maybe this is just me being, weird about food." As I've always been a little bit weird about food. Turns out when I discovered intermittent fasting, which is
Mhm.
apparently something that people just do, you
Yeah.
you eat within, like, this several hour window, and then you
Mhm.
just stop eating.
Yeah.
Apparently that's a more natural way for the human body to consume food. Don't quote me on that. This is just some random guy
No,
on Reddit from, like,
but
10
but
years
you're
ago.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
And
honestly, when you look at right now America and, like, how notorious we are, well, they are. I'm not American anymore, but
yeah.
having, like, very unhealthy diets,
Yeah.
I wonder how much of that is just based off of propaganda.
A whole lot of it, yeah, because they also try and get you to eat sugary cereals and stuff, feed that to your kids in the morning. Well, if you look at the links to cancer and sugar, there's a lot to be said there. And if you look at the links to, um, let's say, inflammation and fasting, there's a lot of really interesting information there, but only one of them is really force fed to the public in the form of commercials, etc. Right? And it's the one that
Right.
makes money. Yeah.
For sure. That definitely adds up. So this guy was literally just out here completely shifting the entire American experience. You
Hmm.
have these ladies who are depicted in even I would think up to the 90s, where
Hmm.
they had that chic movement where you would see all of the very slender, pretty models sitting down, relaxing, smoking a cigarette.
Hmm.
And I would argue that it also was very pervasive in that it extended throughout Europe to in which today, you know, there's a like smoking is a lot more socially acceptable than it is
Sure.
in the States. There was a shift, or I would guess it was around the early 2000s, where all of a sudden they were like, "Oh no, smoking's actually bad for you." After having maybe like almost 100 years of saying that this is like, not only is it
Yeah.
cool, but it's also good for you guys.
Hmm.
So I feel like they used the same exact
Yeah.
strategy.
They just
They were like,
repackage it. Yeah. Like, cause then it's like, okay, are they not doing the same thing with vapes? I guess like now you're starting to see a shift in like, oh yeah, vaping turns out it is pretty fucking unhealthy. But when it first started out, it's like, no, this is way healthier. It's just vapors. Go ahead, blow that shit in kids' faces at the restaurant. No big deal. Clean smoking. But yeah,
yeah.
same repackaged campaigns, right?
For sure. I remember when vapes first became a thing, even I started vaping and I was only
Hmm.
like 17,
Hmm.
and they were like, "Oh, this is healthier than cigarettes." So my brother is a scientist, and he saw me vaping and he was like, "Why are you doing that?"
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh, well, it just tastes good and I'm not smoking, so it's fine." And he goes, "But like why? Like even though you're not like it's not like a cigarette, we still don't know enough about it." Like he didn't know everything about how like ridiculously carcinogenic it was because there was no
Yeah.
peer reviewed studies on it at the time. But he was still kind of like just like from a scientific
Hmm.
perspective, "This is dumb. Stop doing that." And I was like, "You're not my real dad. F you." and I
Yeah.
kept vaping anyway.
Gotta
But
learn the hard way.
yeah, I'd only done it maybe like a handful of times in my whole
Mhm.
life in general. So to see 15 years later, now there's people who are just kind of like, wait a minute, vaping's awful for your lungs, it's awful for your kids, it's awful for the environment, it's carcinogenic, you're gonna get cancer, all this stuff. I feel like it's becoming more and more difficult to discern if something new comes on the scene. Are we
Yeah.
just being sold to, or is this
Mhm.
actually something that's like a healthy replacement? For example, Ozempic.
Right. Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a big
Everybody's
one.
on Ozempic now.
In the US, it's illegal where they manufacture it or where they came up with it, right?
Is it really?
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
mean,
they're
yeah.
it's the largest selling product or, like, the most profitable product, and it's not sold like, is it Norwegian company or Swedish? I can't remember. Anyhow, it's not
Mhm.
sold where they developed it. It's illegal to sell it there. They sell it to the United States. And again, I talk to you about peptides all the time. I'm going to plug it here. I love peptides. I think they're very interesting, but there's a lot of them. And one of them that I would never mess with is what Ozempic is. If I remember right, it's like a GLP or whatever. But
Yeah,
because of
GLP.
the negative effects, right? Like you're paralyzing part of your nervous system to get yourself not to eat, basically. It's very experimental. But for some reason, we've got some peptides that were studied since the 1960s that have incredible health benefits. Just to name a couple, BPC 157, TB 500, anti-inflammation, been studied since the 60s, if I remember correctly. Ozempic, or what it is, right? The peptide that it is, has barely been studied. And so we're now selling it. The government's trying to subsidize it. They're saying that it's such a great thing for weight loss while ignoring the fact that, like, 20, however many years down the line, there's going to be some serious repercussions to this entire thing. And why? Because of, yeah, the profit margins. That's it.
Yeah. Do
Um,
you think would you give it like maybe a 10-year, 5-year? What's the
I
time we're
think
looking at
I
for
think we're
for
gonna
new
start
effects?
seeing people with issues, like, even, like, within 5 years down the road. You're
Right.
already seeing it, right? But, like, this is always the case, at least from what I've seen. They release something, it causes a bunch of horrendous shit to happen, but they suppress that as well as they can, right? Like, you saw this in the cigarette playbook. Um, and yeah, they do it with all sorts of pharmaceuticals where it's like, no, keep flooding the market, keep making that money. If we got to pay a fee back, in the form of $1 billion, that's nothing compared to what we made. And that becomes the business model. And then, hiring people, doctors with low morals to create fake studies that can, skew perspective. It's something
Right.
that's utilized, right? So we see all that, and you see it on such a mass scale that, like you said, a lot of times it's impossible to discern whether something is really authentic or not. You have to, like, be able to look at where the study was held, who paid for it, etc. And even then, it's easy to hide paper trails when you're talking about, developing this kind of stuff. People give money to universities all the time that conduct studies, but then you'll find out, years later that these things were skewed to bring on a sort of, perspective that helped the corporate heads that gave a lot of funding to any number of universities. So, yeah,
Hey,
it's a
so I
dark,
actually
dark circle.
know a guy.
Hmm.
I know a guy who was reached out to by Big Food, right?
Hmm.
So he worked as a psychologist for people who have issues with food. And they actually reached out to him asking if he would contribute to a peer-reviewed study on
Of
some food
course.
that they were trying to convince everybody that it was
Hmm.
good for weight loss.
Yeah.
Um, and so he came to me and he like showed it to me because he thought it was super duper interesting because we were having very similar conversation.
Hmm.
And he was like, they didn't even ask me anything. These are all just like people in their marketing department. They didn't say,
Yeah.
hey, do you think XYZ? Or
No.
can you give us feedback on XYZ? No, it was like a pitch. They said, I will give you X amount of money
Hmm.
to say this, that, and the other. I wish I could remember for the life of me what the product was. I want to
I
say it has
wish too.
something to do with oranges.
Okay.
But They were like, no, like, can you just say this? Period. Here's the amount of money we'll give you. Please contribute to this paper. He was like,
Yeah.
no. This guy, he has integrity. Like, yeah, he's a little bit of a pain in the ass, long story, but he still has integrity around the work that he does. And even if he did contribute to that, I feel like all of his colleagues would have known, oh yeah, this guy totally sold out, because they're probably approaching multiple
Sure. Yeah.
psychologists saying,
Yeah.
please help us sell this food thing, and please tell us that it's good for weight loss. So
In the
after
end, they
that,
find whoever, right? Like they're gonna get their way no matter what. So it's just put the feelers out. Here's the narrative we want. We'll pay you for it.
oh
What?
yeah,
Yeah. Imagine going to sleep at night as that person, but there's plenty of them that'll do it.
oh yeah, for sure. And with less money too. I don't know
Mhm.
what amount of money they were offering the guy, but there are people who would have done it for less, who
Yeah.
are also similarly credentialed. So his no probably didn't do anything. If you probably look at or figure out the product, we'd probably look at it and see it being endorsed heavily by
Mhm.
some doctors, which is freaking crazy to me.
Yeah.
But this same thing actually applies with other concepts that Freud kind of pioneered as well when it
Mhm.
comes to modern day, advertising. So one thing that Bernays used that from his twice uncle, whatever that's called, is that a thing? I don't know. The whole thing's weird.
It is
Anyway,
weird.
so he has this concept of unconscious desires. So pretty much,
Yes.
do you know how modern tech just uses like dopamine loops, like
Mhm.
algorithmic, manipulation?
Sure.
Here, give me that upvote, just upvote it on Reddit, like it on
Mhm.
TikTok, making sure to give you that constant feedback loop. That is something that is probably the backbone of literally all modern tech apps, entertainment experiences,
Yeah.
even like the gamification of a shopping experience. Like if you're going on Shein, if you're going on Temu buying whatever, like manufactured cheap crap from China that you want to, it's
Mhm.
going to be using this concept to
Right.
market to you. That was something that Bernays took from Freud. Another thing, staging events for media, like the cigarettes campaign. You know how brands will create those like viral moments, it's organic
Of course.
trends
Yeah.
catching on,
Yeah.
which on
Mhm.
social I see it all the time. And as someone who is very heavily in social when it comes to the work that I do, it's so annoying because I feel like they think that everyone is stupid. But then I like look at the comments and I realized, wait a minute, everybody is stupid. So I used to be an influencer and I would get reached out to brands all the time, especially musicians. They would
Mhm.
say, hey, can you make a video using our song? I'll give you X amount of money.
Mm.
And yeah, I do it. I do it.
You sound a
But
lot like Bernays in the propaganda thing, right now, using my intellect to, put my thumb on the dumber class. But no,
well, I'm also the dumber
it is what it
class.
is.
So I'm just aware that they
Not
think I'm the
true.
dumber class. So I'm just kind of like, how dare you try to show me
Well,
this information? And
you know,
then I realize that there are people who actually are manipulated very easily by it.
easily, yeah, and it's down to a science now, right? Like, we've been doing the social media thing for long enough to where there's plenty of actors, be them good or bad, that have figured out what these data sets look like on a grand scale and what, causes the most disruption or following or any number of things. And there's a great, documentary on this, principle called The Great Hack, I think, is what it was about, which is about, Cambridge Analytica's helping of Trump's first campaign, which was
Mm,
heavily, dictated by massive amounts of money flooding ad space. And they figured out early on, well, what gets most people following this is rage bait kind of situation. When you get under their skin emotionally, that becomes one of the biggest driving factors to keeping them sat there paying attention to what the narrative that you want to feed them, right? Um, yeah, and so like we look at that, we've basically turned human beings using this technology as numbers that can be, manipulated to a certain extent, and then you've got the feedback on, exactly how well that worked. It's a modern era of exactly what Bernays was, bringing us into.
do you
Uh,
find yourself to be rage baitable, Nick?
At times, I'll find myself in there, right? Like where I don't know what I've done to my algorithm, but maybe I've gone down the wrong rabbit holes, which I'm prone to do. And yeah, I'll get into I'll find myself scrolling. I don't do it all the time. Like I'll wake up to it. It's sort of like when I play a video game, I'll kind of maybe get obsessed with it for like a week or two. And then I'll be like, what the fuck am I doing? Like this is doing nothing for me. And I'll wake up out of it, right? Like it just feels like a
Right.
bad dream. But yeah, I can be I'm susceptible to that kind of stuff. And in that documentary, it's interesting because they speak about these algorithms and the people that kind of like develop the framework for these algorithms and how they've gotten completely out of control. Like it's not something we can rein in anymore, right? The whole purpose is to keep people on your platform, keep them clicking. So of course, you're going to feed whatever gets that going. That's the algorithmic way it's going to keep you on these in these systems, and it just gets worse and worse and worse. But that's the way these things are designed, and I don't know how you fix it. As a matter of fact, I don't think anybody knows how you fix it. And I think with the rise of AI, we're going to see this become a whole different weird era of, for lack of a better word, set of words, up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
want
We're
to hear
not.
something crazy?
Yes.
So now he's like, "Are you kidding?" Of course I do. So recently, I've been seeing quite a bit of this, and I think it's going to be a pretty solid theme for 2026. I was talking to a couple of my girls in the marketing club about this as well. A lot of these same companies that have been pitching to us saying that we need to be staying on these apps, we need to keep scrolling, we need to keep buying, they're now starting to kind of prescribe a solution to the problem that they've created. So I think that in 2026, a lot, and moving forward from here, a lot of the world is going to be, more focused towards authenticity, towards maybe offline experiences, towards trying to prove that, maybe this isn't made with AI. This is our flex, is that we actually did this ourselves. This is
Yeah.
our flex, that this is something that we are authentically providing to our customers, to our users. This is just our brand, just like outright. We've always just been
Hmm.
based off of like candidness, authenticity, things like that.
Sure.
But I think I'm seeing this big skew as people are realizing exactly how pervasive all of the, for lack of a better term, Bernayan advertising has been, and they're
Hmm.
starting to see through it. They're getting
Yeah.
really, really sick of it. So I've been seeing a lot of companies kind of making that pivot towards, all of a sudden being like, why don't we try to convince people that we're not manipulating them?
Yeah.
Which apparently is also a type of manipulation. However, it's not from Bernays. Bernays is the father of modern PR. However, there was a guy before this guy,
Hmm.
and his name was Ivy Lee. He was actually the person who invented PR, but it's not the way that we use PR in general nowadays, because it's more based in, damage control,
Hmm.
access journalism, things like crisis management. So managing perception instead of, what Bernays does, and just manipulating the entirety of people's thought
Right.
processes around thinking, what they need, how they need to do it, what is cool. Instead, this guy is trying to manufacture authenticity, and that's actually one of his methods. It's like,
Hmm.
be authentic, but don't let people know that you're actually being extremely inauthentic. So the way that he took off was actually when he helped the Rockefellers with the very first global PR campaign, national PR campaign rather. It might have been global. So I told you a little bit about this, but did you have a chance to look into the Ludlow massacre at all?
A little bit. It wasn't something I was familiar with. And I think
Yeah,
that's probably by design, right?
exactly, because
Yeah.
it was BS. And
Hmm.
how they cover it up was actually really clever, and clearly it worked, because when you think of the name Rockefeller now, you're thinking of either like ridiculous, like wealthy, very like philanthropic people. You're not thinking of the
Listen, okay, I
well,
not
not
me,
you,
okay, not
not
me,
you,
but yeah, the
the
average,
common folk.
the ordinary person. Yeah.
Yeah, the common folk are thinking about this. Nick is thinking, "Oh, hell no." The common folk are thinking, "Oh, these they have like a lot of philanthropic, endeavors. They're so rich, they're so cool, whatever, whatever. They're
Hmm.
old money aesthetic. Let's go play polo, what have you."
Yeah.
So the Ludlow massacre was actually in the early 1900s, and it was made because people were unionizing.
Yeah.
So it was in Colorado. They had this coal union that they were starting to form, but this was like pre-labor regulations. They had like a list of what we consider nowadays to be very reasonable demands, including an 8-hour workday, safety for
Yeah.
workers, fair pay, the ability to move on to a different mine if they wanted to, workers' rights.
Yeah.
So this was something that they were like not accepting. They weren't just like union busting, they were like calling in the entire government to force these people to stop striking, to stop organizing, to stop unionizing. Eventually, that led to the government and resources provided by the Rockefellers through their company, CF&I, going in with troops and setting fire to the camps where the miners were camping and striking and not working. They also pay to have replacement workers come in, total scabs, by the way, come in and work for the people who were striking in order to get their basic rights. This did not look good for the Rockefellers because they were like making them look like cartoon villains in the media because they are.
Yeah. If I remember correctly, the majority of kills too were the actual workers, like wives and children, or
Yeah.
at least a decent amount of them, right? Like it wasn't,
Yeah,
wasn't
it
very
was true.
controlled like that. It was a slaughter.
It was like
Yeah.
21 people, and yeah, primarily their wives and children. They did not really hit minors at all. And there was like this rumor going around they also planted. They were saying like, oh, they kidnapped one of the replacement workers and they killed him, and then it started like this big thing. I highly doubt that that was a thing. So now in the media, they're looking like complete cartoon villains. Rightfully so. They look awful because who does this?
They are awful. Yeah.
They are awful. Yeah, it was
Yes,
awful.
yes.
So they call in this guy, Ivy Lee. They say, Ivy, look, we've really dug ourselves into probably the deepest shithole we've
Kind
ever
of
been.
up here, bruh. Like,
We made a mistake. They were asking us for like a 8-hour workday and for some basic human rights, and we accidentally killed their families. So, Ivy, buddy, what do we do? What do we do? And this guy was like, just be nice, be authentic, deeply say, oh my gosh, this is the worst misunderstanding. We deeply apologize. Imagine every PR curated statement that you've seen after a company does something extremely problematic generated by ChatGPT.
I think we're seeing it nonstop on the TV or on social media right now. I mean, take your pick of the day, like Jesus.
Yeah, literally, they're always dropping the ball. And then just
sorry about that. I don't think it really happened though. Sorry about that. Those files, what files? Not to not to get political or anything, but
the ultimate gaslight. Yes. Did this guy invent gaslighting? Oh my gosh.
That's that's the premise for all of this, isn't it? It's just like,
oh, for sure. But the thing is, I think this is how everybody figured out the gaslighting worked. Because, nobody forgot about the massacre. But the fact that you barely knew about it and you're very well versed in historical dynasties, such as the Rockefellers, they've
done a lot of stuff I don't agree with. So that's a long rabbit hole you can go down. This is just another.
And I think that's something that if anybody even does like a cursory look into it, they'll see this isn't like a one-off incident. This sort of stuff happens, especially with people with that caliber of society, all the freaking time. But this guy was like, we're going to teach you guys how to dig yourself out of this. He was like, okay, just release some press releases and say that it's news. And then just be really friendly with the journalists and humanize elites through all of this staged, manufactured sincerity. And make sure that you frame this ridiculous amount of corporate violence as just like a misunderstanding, like a very unfortunate misunderstanding. Oh my God, how awful you guys misunderstood.
I don't know how it happened, but we're going to get to the bottom of it. And did anybody go to jail for this thing? My guess is right? Like same as Black Wall Street or any number of things that happened during that era. Like, just
exactly. But one thing that they did do is they quietly implemented rights for their workers in Colorado within the next decade. Very quietly, they didn't make it a big thing. They were like, they didn't make it as like a consequence of their actions. They were just kind of like, hey, we love you guys so much. We think we're gonna do you a favor. You only have to work 8 hours a day.
Yeah,
isn't that amazing?
They just rewrote the model that would work for them, right? On like creating this new age slave labor, which is It seems to be what all these people are after. Which
Look,
we can go back to Bernays and like that whole concept right now, and talk about how I canceled Netflix recently for many reasons, but you can go down this rabbit hole. Mark Randolph, the co-founder of Netflix, has a direct family connection to Edward Bernays, the father of public relations. Bernays was Randolph's paternal great uncle, making Randolph related to Bernays through his father's side. Okay.
wow.
What an interesting just perspective, right? Like, and I'm not saying he's a nefarious person. I don't know how close he was to Bernays or like that ideology, but I do know that we were talking about Larry Ellison seemingly wanting to control all media at this point in time and really working some angles to take control of Netflix. Yeah, I don't like just the narrative. Like, if we're looking at the timeline we just discussed and then what's there, it's just not for me and my family. Sorry about
Yeah,
that.
it's a blueprint. There's not much that's
Yes.
changed. Like when we're
No.
talking about what happened in like even back from the early 1920s to today,
Mm-hmm.
everything that we can associate or everything that we see is directly spawned from the same ideological skill set. So
Yeah.
it's not just like a familial dynasty, it's also a philosophical one. It's
Exactly.
like
Yeah.
a business one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's pervasive. So I
Yes.
understand why you would just be like, I want to remove myself as much from this blatant manipulation and, corporate shillery as
Yeah.
possible. Who
Yeah.
wouldn't? It's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
I feel it's kind of unavoidable because like everywhere I look, it's always something.
I go back to the old stuff. See, I told you to watch Sling Blade the other day. You hated it because you've been so manipulated by this modern media bullshit that you can't understand the art that is
I'm having
Billy
a seizure.
Bob
Oh my
Thornton's
god. I'm
masterpiece,
seizing.
for God's sake. Anyhow, I've been
But I
sticking to
still
the old
watched it
stuff.
though.
Yeah, you did. Yes, I'm proud of
Anyway,
you. Okay, thanks.
thank you.
Okay, so back to Ivy. Sorry, I cut you off there,
Ivy
but I
League.
felt like yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna compare and contrast the two because this
Mhm.
is like it's fascinating to me. So when it comes to like actual like PR, Ivy Lee's okay. He's like, okay, you fed up. Let's react to it. Cause and effect.
Yeah.
Okay, have an apologetic tone and focus on like taking accountability. Like focus on establishing yourself as credibility. So he was like, say, more like good, like
Be a
the Rockefellers are
philanthropist,
good
right?
because yeah, we're good
Yeah.
because we care about workers, because we just
Mhm.
gave you guys some rights, which had nothing to do with you unionizing. We're just good people.
Right.
Whereas Bernays took this and made it more like proactive. So we're gonna get ahead of this. We're
Mhm.
not gonna be responding to anything. We're gonna manipulate people just like baseline by design,
Yeah.
and we're gonna kind of focus it on like identity or like aspiration. So it's more like good workers love the Rockefellers and
Mhm.
they identify with the Rockefellers. Not like we don't care about you guys. Like that's not why you
Yeah.
should like us. It's because if you don't like us and you're just like a bad person,
Yeah.
it feels more like I like Ivy Lee's approach more. I'm
Yeah.
not saying I like it,
Yeah.
but it's less like scumbaggy. He's
Mhm.
like, okay, let's at least pretend like we're sorry, even if we're not. Like, yeah, it's scumbaggy, but it's not like, hey, let's make people think that
It's not a
reality
blatant lie. Yeah. 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 Bernays was yeah, gaslighting was part of the whole blueprint for what he was doing, right? And then at the end of it, or not the end of it, but then you see after everything he did there and he goes to work for the CIA. And
didn't
yeah,
he do
help.
like work campaigns or something?
He well, so he worked for that United Fruit Company, which dominated the banana trade in Central America at that time. Guatemala had this brutal dictator in whatever year it was, that got overthrown. The new president, or whatever you want to call him at the time, that comes in says, all right, we're going to socialize. We're taking huge land operations. We're paying these people for the land, but then we're divvying it up under smaller farmers, right? And
Right.
so the largest landowner in Guatemala at the time was this US corporation. Well, they were also lying about how much money they were making every year for tax purposes, right? So like they didn't get paid exactly what they, felt they should get paid, or what their, machine was getting paid, right?
Sure.
So um long story short, they divvy everything up. Well, that doesn't bode well with this American corporation. So Bernays comes to this with this lens, saying, "All right, what we can do is we can send journalists out there, right, to see what's going on, which is the rampant spread of communism, the beginning of communism, which was, fear mongering in the US at the time was all based on communism and what it would do, etc." And so through that, in conjunction with the CIA, then they overthrew that government and installed a government that was more favorable to what they wanted. Before that guy was assassinated like a year later or something along those lines.
Through a fruit
Um,
company?
yeah, at the time that was like the big thing. That's where the term Banana Republic, that's where it comes from, right? Like that was their main export. And so that's why it's funny that that clothing line exists, because it's not really seen as like a positive term. Um, yeah.
I never knew, like, I've heard of the clothing brand for sure, but, like,
Mhm. Yeah. So
how
that's where
that
it originates. And then after that, um, that installed government, the president or dictator gets assassinated. And from 1960 to 1996 is the Guatemalan Civil War, which was the outcome of all of this tomfoolery. And again, you can see this playing out in countless events over the last, like, let's say 30 years easily, with U.S. foreign war, how it left certain places, etc. Right, and then
Oh, for
currently what's
sure.
happening as well. But yeah, that becomes the engineering for consent concept, the playbook for corporations and politicians, to have their own public relation teams that, again, manipulate the individual's reality to believe in something that maybe they wouldn't believe if they knew everything about it, right? Yeah.
I wanna leave you with this question on that note, because that really makes you think. Do
Hmm.
you think that all PR is propaganda to some extent?
Man, yeah. Yeah, it is, because like it's helping a particular side paint a narrative, right? So even if it is done for good, um, it's set up to get people to believe in the narrative that you want them to believe in, right? So yeah, I
Right.
think PR is all propaganda. I don't really
So
see a way outside of that.
you don't
You
think that propaganda is inherently a bad thing, though?
Uh, I I do. Um,
Oh,
but at the same time, it's like if that's the playbook, then yeah, maybe it's all just bad, right? Like I'm not ashamed to say sometimes that as a marketer, like I just I don't love my job sometimes, because I feel like I'm, pushing ideas onto people that, they could do without. However, that's the state of this world, right? Yeah,
right.
we're just
We live
sucking
in a
down constant
society.
information. Yeah. I don't know. That's a there's quite a conundrum inside that question. I feel like that's hard to break down and make sense of.
Well, here's my philosophy.
Please, yeah.
I think so.
Uh-huh.
I think that there is such thing as like good propaganda. How
Okay.
I justify it with my little propaganda job
Uh-huh.
is that I feel like if we're not putting out like positive good propaganda that's actually going to help people, then the
Sure.
people who are putting out bad propaganda are going to be seen first and they're actually going to be hurting people. So either way, everybody's going to be exposed to propaganda, but we can make sure that we do it in the most ethical way possible by actually helping people find services and products that they actually are
Sure.
going to benefit from instead of
Okay.
them getting scammed by like the the more negative propagandists.
Sure. Give me an example of a positive propaganda machine or, campaign.
Michelle
Got one?
Obama had some great propaganda around making sure that children were eating their fruits and vegetables and shit. It was like it was
Yeah.
very, very demonized by like a lot of the press. This is not even like a partisan issue. I feel like people on both sides were just kind of
Well,
like
no,
fucking
Kennedy's
Michelle
doing
Obama.
it now, right? Like,
Yeah.
or, to a certain degree. But in the end, like, what did the propaganda do? Like, it brought people to a certain side, but did it actually get kids eating? Like, I look at like school lunches in the US and I'm like, I don't think anything changed. Like, it's just garbage slop that they're feeding these kids, So, like, the propaganda without something behind it that changes reality for the better, I think serves the same purpose as like negative propaganda. It's hollow words, right? Like, yeah, no, I do feel that way. Yes, yeah.
I love how thoughtful you are. You're just kind of like you're not going to say something unless you can like stand 10 toes down on it, and I respect that.
That's kind of it's kind of wrong though, because sometimes stuff will fly out of my mouth where I'm like, ooh, maybe I don't firmly believe that, but I was like exploring the concept, playing devil's advocate, and I'll catch myself in there. I think you've had a lot of talks with me about what I'm not allowed to talk about on live streaming, so that kind of gets me on my best behavior sometimes.
Well, I feel like it's because I know that sometimes when like what you're trying to say and what people hear might be two
Mhm.
different things.
Yeah,
I
sure.
just want to
Yeah,
make sure that what you say aligns with how people will be hearing it. And I try to do the same thing myself because I struggle with it sometimes too.
I
Sometimes
appreciate
I'll be
that.
saying something and I'll be like, okay, I know what I mean. Everybody who cares about me knows what I mean. But if
Mhm.
someone hears this who doesn't know me, they're
Yeah.
going to be hearing it with ears that it won't be received in the way that's intended.
Mhm.
That's why. So
Yeah,
you can
well,
speak freely.
but also that's part of the fun, like, of, chopping up the shorts and stuff and seeing what people digest in 30 seconds and how their opinions just go into these, like, I mean, we rage baited people recently, not on purpose, but talking about, 16-year-olds or under shouldn't be on the internet. And that got some people riled up. But do you think they went and watched the podcast? No,
No way.
no way. No, they moved on to the next rage bait piece of material, and sat there doom scrolling for the next 30 minutes, and then they got up, cortisol levels through the roof, and went to McDonald's or whatever.
Man, and you know what's crazy? Even on TikTok, those clips got pretty popular.
Did they
And
really?
under one of the clips, I don't remember exactly which clip it was. It was one of my no, it was one of the hot takes that I had about how I feel about surrogacy.
Oh
So I'm
yeah,
like,
yeah, great one.
because
Yes.
I just be saying stuff. Like I won't say it if I don't mean
Dude.
it, but
Oh,
like I have no like I'm not afraid to put my opinions out there because like what are you gonna do? Kill me? Like please. So I was like, I really don't like surrogacy as a concept. I think that it's like exploitive. And some guy was like, is this a joke? And
no,
my response
you
every
said it.
single time is, why don't you watch the podcast and
Yeah,
find out?
yeah, yeah. A rabbit hole, dude. Come on.
Exactly. It's literally
Oh,
just the short clips, like you said, like how much you're going to digest in this amount of time where that you're going to be able to receive in a way
it's
that
probably
we
good
intended.
that that podcast happened before I went down this rabbit hole of billionaires from foreign countries using surrogates to create like tens to hundreds of babies that then would be their lineage. Anyhow, whole different rabbit hole.
Dude,
If you guys want to go down it, it's really cool. Well, I don't know about cool, but it's really interesting, and it ties into other billionaires who recently just fell off the face of the earth that had a ranch in New Mexico.
ooh,
Yeah, yes,
oh
lots of
my.
surrogacy rabbit holes down. Yeah,
Yeah,
this
well,
world
for
is fucking weird, man. Like Freud is weird, but like
me,
he's nothing anymore compared to the new breed of ups that are impositions of
is that our new
power.
litmus test? Like on a scale from 1 to Freud, how weird
Yeah,
is this
how
podcast gonna
up are
be?
you? Yeah.
Like literally Freud after he just like drank 2 Coca-Colas and did like a line of flow and then wrote a lot.
Woo! Yes.
All
Jesus.
right, you guys. We want you guys to actually go and look at the very least the cigarette campaign. What was it called?
Yeah.
Torches of Freedom. Take a look at
Yes.
that campaign and let us know if you can see exactly what we're talking about when we describe what is going on there, how he's doing it, and whether you can see how those sorts of things can actually apply to modern PR and media today. So on that note, like, comment, subscribe, leave a comment, let us know what you think, whether you love Freud, whether you love, whether you want to write a love letter after doing all of that stuff, like Freud.
Yeah,
And
that's some romance there, yeah.
oh yeah,
Go
that
for
guy
it.
was just covered in just the lady. He was clearly a ladies' man.
Oh
Anyway,
my gosh.
thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we will catch you in the next one.
Good luck
Bye.
out there, everybody.
You're gonna need it.
Yeah.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching. If you found this helpful, make sure to give us a like, drop a comment, subscribe, so you don't miss out on any future SEO insights. And hey, if you're serious about your rankings, head over to SirLinksalot.co, check out our premium link building services, guides, and free SEO tools. See you next time.